It has been a while since we've done one of these viewer key reviews, taking a look at a 18 hauls. Beefbuns is the name of the character. Ruab in Discord, not sure what he's interested in being called right now, but we are taking a look at what looks to be a relative, looking like at the time a progression key form for sure. It seems like he's done a bunch of 18s, so perhaps some before this as well, it looks like, but also now he's delved into 19s, which, happened on a pretty good week there. So let's take a look at this. It's warrior tank. I don't really play the spec. I haven't played the spec at all, but I can already tell that there's going to be a fair few things that I can't comment on, regardless of me not knowing too much about warrior. So this is recorded on the inspiring week. So we're gonna have some poll conversations about inspiring, but yeah, typically, I think you really do want to start thinking about a more aggressive pull on every tyrannical week. Now, the problem is the inspiring, but in the opening pack of hauls, the only mob that is inspired is this one. So, the fact that you're actually choosing to pull it, I mean, you got a little isolated here, which actually ironically works out very well for you, but the fact that you're choosing to pull this with Bloodlust, I mean, yeah. So what I've been doing is I actually have a whole video on my updated routes too, if you're interested in it. But I've been going left here. It's not really like any way for me to show you, but if you've never seen it done, basically you go this way and then left. See the hall, the little stair or whatever area over there. You're going for the first church elemental over there. And the trick here is simply to CC this pack, the patrol, okay? And again, that is the pack that is inspiring. There's no other inspiring mob anywhere near here. So that mob gets CC'd, which you have a mage for. Probably hunter works or shaman works too. Doesn't really matter who CCs it. It just needs to not get into the pack. And typically I do that because if you don't CC it, it's going to eventually walk into you on the back end of you fighting the pack that you're pulling. And that will just automatically aggro the healer, and the healer will usually die because of that. I've had that happen multiple times. So if you're not going to CC it, you need to be very ready to get it in. And that's going to be very, very difficult because it's that caster type. It's like an archer and then two dogs. So it's unlikely you'll be able to get all two while still, fighting the church element and everything. So and it creates a much better situation where you have a much more a bigger pull for bloodlust on the pull. And like I always say, the most important thing is pulling with the first pack of the dungeon as efficiently as possible. And I don't do it myself all the time, but this week's slam dunk week here, in this dungeon especially, this is a very, very, very easy trash dungeon. So this was a week that you really wanted to capitalize on that first pull. Okay, now we have something that seems a little odd to me as well. Very odd, actually. It's a huge mistake, if you ask me. So you're actually going to, yeah, I mean, you actually target and grab the Loyal Stoneborn now. Huge, huge mistake. I'm not really sure who the Venthyr is in your group. I guess the Paladin, very likely. But that is an absolute massive error. I don't think you're Venthyr, right? I don't know. But anyway, this pack is like super easy. So this, maybe you didn't see a lot in season 1 or something. This Venthyr buff here used to be the strongest one in all 8 dungeons. They did nerf it, but it is still extremely powerful. And, it's to the point where like I've been strategizing on how to get more. So if you could get more of these buffs, it would be the best possible thing you could do, like route-wise. Like there would be no question about it. So pulling that now is a huge, especially since you had an opportunity to pull that pack with it and you chose not to. So now you basically just wasted that gargoyle. I mean, that did almost nothing for you there. It's just now gone before the actual hard pack. So the pack coming up, always with the church elemental. You always want the gargoyle with the church elemental, one way or the other. And we've talked about different ways to use it outside of that, but you have a clear opportunity here. Usually just let the Venthyr player get it. Like as a tank, I don't ever get that myself unless I can see that the guy's not getting it. Then I'll drag it in, and then he'll be forced to get it, which is like kind of like like a pug play. But yeah, this is the pack you want, and it depends on the route, I suppose. But I like to especially on a week like this, I'm gonna grab everything here. Weeks that I wouldn't do that on would be weeks that like maybe like right now with Sanguine. necrotic, etc. Maybe bolstering, stuff like that. Definitely not grabbing all of this stuff. But, if you're not planning on grabbing the small guys at all, then not a big deal. But otherwise, you would get these four. We get the small guys on the right there, and then have the gargoyle. And this pack is first because it's also a defensive CD, right? So this is, from what I've been told, this is one of the hardest packs in the dungeon, or like it's going to repeat 3 times in the dungeon. But this is a very difficult concept pack for a warrior tank. So it sounds like it would be a really good time to have an extra defensive layer on there. So that would also be the gargoyle. But yeah, it looks like you're potentially not getting those mobs at all, which I would really recommend changing because, I mean, I don't know. We'll see what happens count-wise, but they're just free count. And you could fight them on top of this too. So a lot of the weeks that I was talking about with Sanguine and stuff, I would just pull them now instead. Pull them with the lieutenant, and then you can kill them while everybody does something that's, resembling some AoE on top of the boss. So pretty efficient to do that. But I guess, that's just my route. You don't have to do that if you don't want. It's just like one of those situations where everybody's going to be using all their CDs on the church elemental every time. It looks like that guy's going to back into them. Wow, that shaman's very close to them. Surprised he didn't actually walk into them. But anyway, that's something that you can get a lot of value out of, I feel like, because everybody's going to have all their, everybody's going to be most attentive on those mobs. I don't think there's another piece of trash in any dungeon that people are that attentive on. It's kind of interesting. So the 5th skull, okay. Interesting choice. So in my experience, it's very useless in 5-mans. But I will say the time I got the most value out of it was in this dungeon when I was soloing it. It's actually very useful in the second boss. It comes like constantly, like you're constantly seeing it. But that was when I was soloing stuff. So yeah, I don't think I would ever take that under any circumstances. I mean, let's quickly go back here, and I can explain my thought process here. But so we have 2 incredibly powerful Anima powers on that. Besides that one, I don't know if you have a look at what your overall damage looks like with it, but it's actually not very high at all. Mostly because you're not going to be in combat with 5 mobs very frequently. I mean, this dungeon, maybe this is like this dungeon only kind of play, and I could see that if that's your case. But anyway, Crumbling Bulwark is obviously insanely valuable for Blood DK. I guess maybe it's not that good for Prot Warrior, but it is still 5% versatility, which will be a 2.5% DPS increase for the entire combat that you're in. But obviously, if you're interested in DPS, you should probably be considering Champion's Brand. Now, I don't necessarily know how often you as a tank are above 70% health as a warrior, but Blood Decay is not known for that. Let's put it that way. And I still get really good uptime on that. So yeah, I think I'd love to hear your thoughts on why you take the 5th skull. I mean, if it's only for this dungeon in this specific case, I could see it because there's actually some good value on bosses too. But the first boss will have no value, and the third boss will have no value. Really, every boss will have no value other than the second. So it's like, yeah, this is a tyrannical week. You know what I mean? Maybe it's a little bit more. I don't know. I would think about something else there if I were you. But anyway, we're gonna pull all this stuff together. It's pretty normal. I wouldn't say there's anything wrong here. We have an inspiring pack. But you have probably so I have done this before, and I just did this the other day as well, where somebody's basically like, oh, my CDs aren't up, don't pull the church elemental yet, but otherwise I like to get this guy out of the way, and this is simply because I forget to get him. Typically I do that route where I go left, and then I end up just forgetting that I didn't go left, and then we don't have him killed, and then we're sitting there waiting for the boss to aggro, and the church elemental is still attackable. And the problem with that is the boss has to eat all the anima from the church elementals to spawn, and that's a huge error. Let's put it that way, because then you're sitting there waiting for him to do that. Anyway, this is a mob that I think you really do want to try to aggro something more on, like especially on an 18. You know what I mean? Like, it should be very easy for everybody to survive this. So I think you want to start thinking about ways to add a mob here. I feel like Oros is always try to fight something else with Oros if you can. Like, there's not a lot of great examples where you can't, but Sanguine and the other side would be 2. This one should be very, very easy no matter where he is located. But I mean, if he's located in the second area, you're skipping him. I think most people are skipping him. So I think you definitely should be skipping him. But okay, so that's the same there. And again, the same, okay, same error again. You're pulling, oh wow, yeah, okay. So I mean, these are just, this is actually the mage, one of the shamans maybe. Anyway, this is actually just some, I mean, this is an awful error here. You're not even really doing any trash that's worth having it on. Oh, it's interesting Ravager there. Um, I actually think the buff is so important that it's like this is a massive issue. I know you upgrade the key and everything, but like man, that's a mass. I hope that you will learn that because it's like this buff is massive. It's so much DPS and it's a big defensive CD as well. You can't just be using it like whenever. You can't just be fighting. And it looks maybe like you can't skip it there, but you actually absolutely can. You can just walk around the left kind of like you are right now. Okay, pulling this back. Interesting. I would not recommend like this is just unneeded. There's plenty of opportunity to get count uh without pulling that pack. And this pack is like does anybody think that you want to go out of your way and fight vicious gargons? Like I would say no. I would get used to not. I would try to change this because yeah, these mobs as you see, I mean they're almost killing you on an 18 tyrannical, so pretty and characters like 250 as well is pretty geared. Nobody stops the cast. It's just like yeah, definitely don't want to. I would not ever want to fight these mobs, to be honest. I would never go out of my way to seek them out. So, yeah, I would definitely recommend not pulling that pack, but that'll be up to you if you feel like there's a reason to do it. I mean, if you pull all of that onto the church elemental, and then you could use some big CDs and use um, use the Gargan there and stuff. Maybe that works out. I don't know. Never done it, I don't think, but oh, here we go. Same pack. No, again, nothing problematic about this mob at all this week, so not really anything to worry about, but just making sure we're interrupting collect sins, which are not being interrupted even though you're targeting them. Interrupt is not up though currently. You can also stun it. I don't know if this applies to Warrior too, but it seems like I think it was collect sins. I looked this up. I looked at this a while ago. You can actually AMS this spell. I think it's that, or maybe it's the other one. The debuff that has to be dispelled. So one of them can actually be AMS'd, even though it's not on you. Like you, I think it's collect sins. Yeah, I think the mob actually targets you, technically targeting you with collect sins and channeling off your sins or something like that. So I bet you could spell reflect that. Does anybody know that about Warrior? Okay, so yeah, here we go. Good. You did what again. I don't know if you did this on purpose or what, but you definitely don't want to fight these back to back, though. That's another big error here. Regardless of if you did this on purpose or if you just forgot, like I always do, you do not want to fight these shards back to back because people just want to have their CDs up for both of them. And these are definitely the hardest trash in the dungeon, if not the hard. Like they're the most health consuming trash, and there's not really a lot of trash that is anywhere near to that type of difficulty in any dungeon. So you really want to strategize, like you want to plan around an adequate space of time in between these two things, so you don't have CD waste, and especially with this is a rep paladin. Oh yeah, I didn't even realize that. I was gonna say, especially with the paladin in the group, you're gonna want to allow him to have Ashen up for every pull, but. That's funny though. I haven't seen a rep paladin. I've seen like 2 rep paladins total. So you've now basically met my season limit of rep paladin in a single key. And one of them was Jambo. So basically seen 1 wild rep paladin. So that's pretty wild. But anyway, okay. So again, you really just got to be using those gargoyles for bosses this week. That's just if you're not using them on the church elemental, then yeah, definitely do not want to be pulling this here. And it seems like yeah. So you didn't get any of the 2 small packs. So it seems like we're gonna get count somewhere else. We still need a lot of count here. I don't think that 1 additional pack that I wouldn't aggro was enough count, but I would definitely recommend. Yeah, okay. So if you are gonna pull this pack, So you're gonna also pull that. Oh yeah, okay. You're also gonna pull this pack. I think that I've heard people say that people are doing this. Um, yeah, I don't know. Just seems pointless to me. The good thing about those small builder whatever mobs are they like can always be aggroed with other trash. Like you don't ever have to worry about that. Now the thing about what I normally do here is I combine these two with the middle pack, which I guess is a non-blood decay, is probably a lot harder. Probably a lot harder. So yeah, I guess I could see it. Probably it's just not an option, so that doesn't make it very efficient to just fight those two mobs. But oh, we're actually way overcount. 84, right? Yeah, so that's not, yeah, something wrong there, one way or the other. Way overcount. That's 5% overcount. So another massive issue there, 5% overcount. We do get one gargoyle, which is fine. Obviously, having at least one is good. Two would be better. There's ways to get two, not an issue really. It's just like some kind of macro you spam it or something, no problem. But yeah, this boss I don't really, honestly, I don't really have any tricks for. That guy is just standing in the wrong spot, although everybody kind of is. So I've made the mistake of moving him last second. I made the mistake of moving too little. Made the mistake of moving too much. But this is honestly, yeah. So there you go. You move at the last second. That's actually a huge error. That was a higher key that's going to kill that guy, and that's probably going to be a huge argument. So I've done that myself, especially with quaking. It's actually very possible. But yeah, you can't. Once he starts the crumbling cast, you can't move. He's going to put it wherever you were when he started it. So there's no way to move into it at that point. If you want to try to place them really close to each other, you have to basically be standing in the puddle the whole time. And I would not recommend it. I think it's actually physical damage though, maybe. I think it's that, yeah, so there you go. So we did it wrong again. And that one especially is always going to be an issue there because you're going to move from those lines, and then the second he's done doing the lines, he's going to start the cast. So you almost have to move back into the place you want to be before the cast is over. And it's really not that big of a deal, but that's, I think, how you maximize the space on the fight and don't waste DPS. Especially if you have all casters, like, yeah, you have Rat Pala, but all casters. That guy actually blinks, otherwise he was about to get feared there. And just try to be conscious of that. You know, as a tank, it's not really, you know, it's a two-way street, obviously. Like we say, you can have the DPS should be considering moving as well. But they're dumb sometimes, so you're going to have to make sure that they don't get feared because of your movement. And then just, I don't know, just try to kite in a uniform pattern so you don't have people all spread out. Make it obvious, you know, make it clear what direction you're going and what pattern you're trying to employ here for this crumbling slam mechanic. But yeah, see, like that wild movement there, there's just no need for it, especially with the boss almost dead, right? Like he's not going to do another mechanic, I don't think. Actually, he might, but that wild movement there is what you really want to avoid. Now, luckily, the mage has blinked twice, but otherwise, he's going to get trapped. He's either going to get, yeah, you do get another refracted sunlight. He's either going to get trapped and have to take a bunch of damage and run through the mechanics, or he's going to have to be very ready to move. So, okay, so we're going to invis pot, make sure you don't get quacked. Good, you actually recognize that. It's very good. But yeah, 5% over count here. So I'd be interested in hearing what happened count-wise. It didn't look like you had pulled anything you didn't intend to pull. So that's not good. But yeah, 79 point something, I think is the number. So that's pretty much one whole pack over count, I think. Okay, Echelon, hardest boss in the dungeon for sure. We got Lust for it. Good thing to see that. Prot Warrior probably is not the best fight for them. Obviously, Bloody Key very, very, very good for this fight because you can gore fiends, but also AMS or stun immune yourself. Looks like you have the same problem I always have, where these people are DPSing the mobs before they get in. And this is just a DPS loss. Like the people are actually so unaware that they're hurting their own DPS. It's kind of embarrassing. And then now we missed the first leap there because of that. So there you go. Although it does look like maybe the Rock Ellie was partially to play there. But yeah, that's just not anything you can do about that as a warrior. I don't think there's anything you can do about that. It's not really a big deal, and I'm sure on an 18 Tyrannical, it's not really going to come into play. But that's a massive issue on a hierarchy. You really want to get those in and be as efficient killing them and get them out as possible because they do a lot of damage. They do, you know, if they don't die, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Like this one's a respawn, so that's a huge issue. Again, not going to matter on this key, but something you do really want to keep in mind. But yeah, without it's actually kind of funny. Without Gore Fiends, it's just like, God, it's got to be so much harder. I don't actually know. I don't know what you would do, to be honest, but try to interrupt him, I guess. Maybe Spell Reflect works. I don't know much about it, but I would imagine Spell Reflect's limited use case in this dungeon, or use case in this dungeon is, you know, I know there's going to be a lot of casters, so hopefully it won't be too limited in this one, but oh yeah, maybe the Spirit Bastion helps with that. I don't think so. Not really sure how Spirit Bastion works, but I know in the old days, Druids would throw it on Ursouls and then kind of typhoon things on the periphery of Ursouls and would kind of stack them all up in the middle of Ursouls, so you don't have a knockback as you as a shaman has one. But yeah, okay, so this is actually going awfully. Shaman does use his knockback, but completely frivolously. This would be, I don't know if I'm just used to playing DK or what. This would be if I saw this, I'd be like freaking out about how bad it was going, honestly. Not in chat or anything, but like mentally freaking out. So yeah, I don't know. It's not that big of a deal, but yeah, the Curse of Stone, I can actually AMS prior, and then it will not go on me. And then if I get stunned here, I could Icebound if you have to move at the last second. So just try never to get hit by that, which you do well, and that's it. Easy fight. It looks like very easy on this difficulty, so no problem, even though these ads are a mess. A mess. The trick here is to not DPS them until they get in. They will actually run to the tank or whoever. I don't actually fully understand if it's threat or what, but they'll run right to the center basically. And then they won't start casting until they reach their target. So the reason that happens is because people are out, like not stacked up in the middle, and they're AoEing. And Balanced Druid is usually the main offender with Starfall. But Frost Mage probably too with a orb or something hitting them. I don't really know, but okay. So Varuth, nothing special here. You got Rat Pally to clear the debuff, but I doubt it's needed. I don't actually recognize. What is that icon? This is like a hammer hitting metal icon. 10-second. It looks like it's up all the time. What is that? Is that a warrior buff? I've never seen that icon before. It's either a warrior buff or a weapon enchant. I bet it's a weapon enchant. I don't use a weapon enchant as a Blood DK, so I never get to see those buffs. But anyway, Wave of Terror. I bet you could spell reflect that maybe, huh? Not really needed, but it is magic damage, so AMC is good for that as Blood DK. But Prot Warrior, I guess you can always use Commanding Shout. I didn't really pay much attention to the character's spell usage because I don't really know much about Warrior, so I'm not going to try to critique spell usage. But I'd imagine a lot of people have the same issue that I have, where I just simply don't use AMZ very often. Like I probably use it like only like 3 or 4 times a dungeon, when it could be used probably 10 or so times a dungeon. So maybe the same thing with Commanding Shout. I think it's what, a 3-minute CD, or what is it called? Rallying Cry now, whatever the health buff, whatever it's called. I don't see it on your bars anywhere, but I'm sure it's there. Obviously, it's E, Control E. So I'm sure it's fine as a defensive CD too, as a tank, but I would want to try to use it. Although I guess it's not really very useful for a defensive CD in 5 minutes. I've been talking about this for years, but a CD like that is basically just a health buffer, and it makes it easier to heal up for healers when you're in raids. But in 5-mans, it's not really needed. Like that kind of thing just doesn't really exist. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just useless. Okay, so we're at 90% count. We have, where's our timer? 12 minutes left. Ooh, this is actually tighter than it looks. And I mean, again, a big part of that is because you're over count. Typically, coming off that boss with 12 minutes would be very good. But considering it's an 18, I thought we were looking at double upgrade territory here. But no, okay, so it's going to be a little, I mean, it's probably an easy upgrade, but yeah, so just definitely don't go over count. I don't see a death counter. The weak ore for the actual Halls of Atonement thing is kind of like not really on the screen and also blocked by some other UI elements, so hard to see it, but I don't see a death counter. Has there been no deaths so far? I think actually no deaths so far, yeah. Okay, so yes, good. We're gonna both of these, right? Yes. Help out. Whoa, what are we doing? Oh, wow. You're fighting Sogadon? Okay. Oh my god, and we waste a freaking Gargoyle on Sogadon. Okay, you can pull Zogadon without aggroing those gargoyles. In case you don't know, all the lieutenants, they do not aggro anything else. They will not aggro anything else. They could walk through bosses, trash. They could walk through senators, United States senators. They can do anything. They can walk through anything. They will not aggro. So yeah, you can easily just toss that heroic throw over there or whatever that is, and then just run a line of sight, and he'll run all the way in, and you don't have to waste a gargoyle fighting a boss, fighting a mini boss that you shouldn't even be fighting. I would really recommend skipping Sogadon, but I get why you might not want to if it's an easy upgrade, because the only way you can wipe is people getting hit by the statues at that point. But I just doubt it kills anyone on an 18. Oh, and you took the leech. Interesting. I don't know anything about warrior, but again, I highly doubt that. I just think that leech trait is just awful. But especially, it's based on your health, right? Let's take one more quick look at this. Yeah, based on your missing health. So we had a conversation about this early on with blood decay, because I'm always so low health. But there's just no way a warrior's going to get very good value out of that, right? I could see Leech being better for a really high DPS tank, like a Vengeance Demon Hunter, but I don't think Prot Warrior would be the case. Now, I assume you could spell reflect these spells, but I don't know. Again, don't know anything about Warrior, but you're letting those casts go off. I would definitely or maybe you did spell reflect one of them, and I just didn't see it. I don't actually know how spell reflect, like what visual spell reflect offers, but yeah, I would imagine we're interrupting volley and then spell reflecting the other one. So every 20 seconds you can do that, right? Yeah, so this boss super easy, but Loyal Stoneborn ×2, really, 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 really good here because it's super long fight. It does nothing. There's no mechanics. I mean, it's the easiest fight. The first fight and this fight are probably the two easiest fights in the game, but they're very long encounters. And I think people kind of get lulled to sleep with how ridiculously easy they are. It's like actually kind of weird how easy they are, to be honest. Like, I don't know who the hell designed these fights, but I think honestly they probably designed this fight, and those 4 cauldrons are probably meant to be like a breaking point for the fight. And then somebody was like, "Oh no, we can't have that in Mythic Plus." So now there's just no mechanics. It's like just run to the cauldron and that's it. That's actually the only mechanic. That and interrupt, right? Literally it. Dodge, just swirl on the ground. What's this, classic? I mean, there's like less mechanics on this boss than there is in classic. So anyway, that's fine. But yeah, just want to really put your best foot forward offensively here. So do not waste the gargoyles. So done that wrong 3 or 4 times down the dungeon, and I would say that it won't hold you back in this key. But it's not even like, I wouldn't even say you're doing anything wrong. It's just everybody's gonna disagree with you. You know what I mean? Like if you pull that there with Sogadon, people are gonna be upset. Let's put it that way. So you're gonna fight some mentality too, as well as theoretical loss. But yeah, we are 8 minutes left at this point, so it's gonna be a very easy upgrade at this point. Even with the Sogadon pull, it hasn't slowed you down at all. So coasting. This room probably not much you can do as as a Prot Warrior, but as Blood DK, I just like to try to spread my disease to every target. I think you do have deep wounds or something. Is that still in the game? I don't know exactly how that works, but I remember a long time ago when I played Warrior, every time you thunderclap, it applied deep wounds. Yeah, that looks like the case. So yeah, probably want to try to thunderclap everything, but I don't know. It doesn't really matter. It's just DPS are gonna have like a field day on these mobs. And the most of the mobs are gonna be on you, but there's gonna be some that are not. It's hard for me to differentiate. I feel like I have trouble with that, but yeah, that was a good. Was that commanding shot there? I saw something that, no, I guess not. I don't know what that was, but yeah, this is a room where people are gonna take a lot more damage than you are probably. So stunned, it's good, keeping them stunned. Just making sure that we're using commanding shout probably in this room, I guess, maybe. I don't really know, like I said, what value that spell has, but this is really the only room in the dungeon that's actually, I think this is probably more dangerous for the DPS than the tank, because these mobs are going to fixate. Now, you killed everything so freaking fast, and again, probably because it's an 18, but I do think on the higher keys, even on tyrannical weeks, like once you get to 20, it's going to be a lot longer. This room takes a lot longer, so there's usually at least 2 sets of adds up like the things he spawns. There's going to be 2 sets of them by the time you kill them. So that's that. But so I waited this whole time to talk about this, but I do want to talk about this right now. UI stuff. So I don't. I've always feel bad about this because, people come and ask me for my advice on these stuff, and I try to keep it to gameplay, but like, this is a really bad UI setup. And it's not like, let's examine why, okay? Um, so first of all, you have no health bar, like anywhere. Now, I didn't do this either when I played a tank. Originally, when I played a prop paladin, I just had like here, like this was my health bar, right? And your health is here, and you can see it, I'm sure. And that's how I played too. But that was mostly because as a paladin, I needed to heal others. So I needed this there so I could heal, and I could voodoo and use voodoo and stuff for this, okay? So like the raid frame bar would be here. Usually it's on my right, but it's still, where I need it. And I could see my health that way. Now, I guess that works for you, okay? But I would really, really, really recommend if at any point at all in keys you feel like your health is an issue and you're having to like here, let's put it this way. This is so far away from where I'm looking, and I don't know what kind of monitor you have and stuff like that. But for me on my monitor, I'm looking right at that, right in the center here. Like this kind of pillar of the space of the monitor is what I'm looking at, okay? So it being all the way over here means I have to constantly, you know what I'm saying? I have to constantly look. And these bars are not very good for tanks. Like I need to know a lot more than 93%, don't you think? Don't you want to see exactly how much health you have? And then so on top of that, I also use the damage type weak ore, it's in my UI video if you want to get a link to it as a weak ore. I also use that because then I know exactly how much health I have to spare, right? If I see I just took 40,000 damage from some cast, and then I see I have 60,000 health, it's like, okay, I know I survived that, right? Like you get to be that adequate at recognizing the damage before it happens when you do that. But without a health bar and without this information on your screen, you're just flying blind. You're just hoping you're fine. And you're just hoping the healer heals you. And then the only thing you know about is what percentage health you're at. And I guess it doesn't really matter that much as other tanks, but I just doubt that that's a good way to play. And on top of that, you have your weak ores like so freaking low. I mean, what's the point of having them this low? I would have them like right here. I want stuff right underneath my character. And you can make them translucent. I don't know how many people like edit weak ores and stuff, but like it's not hard to do. But it's like, again, your character's here, and then everything else that's important is all over the place. Like, I mean, that's, people always joke about, like, meme about my UI, but I actually haven't had it in a long time. But it was a common talking point for years. But it's that way for a reason. I've created this box around my character with every single piece of information I need. And I still don't use it that well. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't there, I wouldn't use it at all. And I think a lot of people probably do that. I know me and Cop have talked about this. People just get these weak ores and they don't even look at them. They're just like, I'll get them. And especially if you're like, recording your footage or streaming or whatever it is, it might feel like obligatory to have something like that on your screen. But like, let's be completely honest here. This is effectively like looking at your bars. This is how low this is on the screen. You might as well just be staring at your actual action bars. And that's not that big of a deal. But the reason it would be a big deal is because it means you're not looking at what's going on the screen. So, this was a big issue in the early days of raiding because people didn't use add-ons, like people didn't know about add-ons. Having your action bars be the only way you see pertinent CDs and information, it's like you can't see the screen too, right? Unless you're playing on like a tiny ass monitor, your eyes are so far away from the action that you're going to take avoidable damage because you're going to be looking down at your bars and then you're going to have to look back up at the screen. So there's lag time, right? Your brain is not a perfect device. So that's that, okay? Now, you've moved your target to here, which is interesting. Usually I see people put it low, but regardless, I like that. But I would just move the health bar here or whatever. If this is an area of the screen you're spending a lot of eye space on, then that's, I mean, just let me know how that works out for you. But then on top of that, we see this here where we have this weak weak aura overlapping another weak aura. I mean, what the fuck? I don't. I've probably done this multiple times in my years, but I'm actually shocked at how many people send me footage, and on their UI they have multiple UI elements overlapping each other. It's like, you can customize that, right? Like, it's fully customizable, and you have them overlapping, and it doesn't look good, but it's also like, I mean, surely that's ineffective, right? I don't know. I love to hear people's thoughts, but then it's the same thing like over here. Like, I mean, why not just put this like right here? If this is a weak aura, why not just like put this with everything else? I like to keep everything together, so I would really recommend that. And I would just drop this if this is this low and you feel like it's helping you, stick with it. But I mean, actually, I almost see like your eye line shift constantly. And I think that's a big part of people getting held back in keys as a tank. Like, I know it sounds weird and it looks weird, but like the UI is the most important part of being a tank. You need to have all that information, man. It's so vital. So vital. Okay. So anyway, that's it. I'm sure we're on our way to an easy upgrade. But again, let's recap everything that went wrong here. First of all, major issue, 5% overcount. I mean, that's just not acceptable in a dungeon like this. This dungeon is so freeform. And good thing you pulled Sogadon, because that guy would be dead. But anyway, so freeform that it's like you can get really accurate count-wise. So I got to see that get better for sure. And let me know if that was some kind of error or you missed something or something. I don't really know. But that was a big error. And it's not going to cost you here, but this is a very easy key. And it's going to get a lot harder to upgrade if you're going to go 5% overcount in a dungeon like this. Anyway, the other big mistake was the gargoyles. So we had a lot of needless pulling of them. And again, I don't understand. Maybe it's like in the lower keys, people aren't ready for it. So you feel like I need to get it, and I only have this time to get it now. So it's either me get it now or I don't get it at all. There's a commanding shout. Pretty good use there, I guess, for sure. A little late. But anyway, the gargoyles are like a massive part of your success in this dungeon. So just randomly aggroing them when there's no danger and it's not really helping make the pack easier is very bad. Like, that's a major issue. And again, I understand, if you're not aware how good they were, it'll probably be less obvious to you why this is so bad. But at one point, they literally would be your top DPS. Like, if the healer got them, especially, but even a DPS. If a DPS got every single one, it would be his top DPS over the course of the key. And they have nerfed it and made it a lot different now. But it is still a badass DPS increase and also a damage reduction. So there's not, you didn't miss any or anything like that, which I have seen people do. But realistically, it's not what you want to see. So anyway, I don't think this is spell reflectable. For some reason, it's AMSable, even though it's a physical debuff, which usually, to me, it makes me think if it's AMSable, it's also going to be spell reflectable. But I guess that's no longer true, so I don't know. I guess that spell is not spell reflectable. So, but that's it. Easy upgrade. We'll see what the end of the key looks like, but I think you did pretty well. I mean, I didn't really see any defensive issues. Like, you were never in any danger whatsoever. So maybe that means you can go a little bit more defensive. We did see this trinket. You got a renown 2 grants. It's like the most important part. But we did see the trinket use. I don't know if you used it for that dungeon specifically. It's hard to, I don't see anywhere on the screen that shows trinkets, but maybe I'm just missing it. But this is awful. I mean, I don't know. Is anybody using this seriously? I feel like this is actually awful. As a prot warrior, I'd probably just take an offensive trinket at this point. Oh, there's the show of force. That's the conduit. That's the icon I was looking at. But this is just off. I mean, this is actually shit. Like, I don't know if it works out for you. I don't see healing anywhere on the screen, but I highly doubt it works out well for you. It's just not a very good trinket. Like, the way it works just doesn't really work very well. And even its Bloody K, I don't feel like it's worth using. So the thing is, it has stamina and it's got leech on it. Maybe is why you're using it, but I don't think stamina for non-Bloody K would be very valuable, to be honest. But anyway, those are the things I would improve on. Definitely work on the route in there. Like I said, the beginning pull as well is just so vital. If you can get Like one way or the other, this dungeon has to not scare you. You have to be very aggressive pulling this dungeon because there's nothing, like it's so easy to combine all these packs, right? And this pack here, like this pack can't scare you. You have to be ready for it, and you have to try to combine it. So if you're gonna pull this solo, I mean, especially with the Gargoyle lost here, like this is a good minute or so, like a loss of efficacy in this area. So anyway, I hope this helps. I hope that yeah, you know, I try not to be too harsh, but like the UI situation, this is a repeatable issue. I see this in almost every key. I mean, there's been very few people that I can remember that sent me videos and I haven't commented on their UIs. So maybe people are getting sick of it, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know a ton about Warrior stuff, but I think you did pretty well on that front. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, let me know. I look forward to reading the comments. So we'll see you there.